Well, it's a season of promises, new alliances and new parties. 10 months to Kenya's consequential 2022 contest. Tonight on Pandit's Night, we look at the road to 2022. Good evening. I'm Abubakar Abdullahi. Welcome to the broadcast. As always, remember you can be part of these discussions. Send us a message on 22047. The hashtag to use is Pandit's Night. Just a reminder, as earlier publicized, of who our guests are: Dr. Japheth Kavinga Kaluyu, former independent presidential candidate who joins us from Washington, D.C. Professor George Wajackoyah is with me in studio, a presidential candidate as well. Good evening, gentlemen. Thank you for your time tonight on TV 47.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
All right, Dr. Japheth, let me start with you. In 2017, you wanted to be Kenya's president. It's close to 5 years, 10 months shy of that term. What do you view as Kenya's current problem?
Well, there are many. We are saying that, first of all, thank you for inviting me and the TV 47. It has been really a great champion for all the candidates, equality and equal treatment. Because if you look across the media, most people are not inviting the other presidential candidate. They are just created two characters of just basically Ruto and Raila and two-horse race, and it is just a character that has been made. But now you guys are able to give all the candidates a platform so that they can be able to say. Mm-hmm. And in the process of saying 2017, I'm also a presidential candidate in 2022. There are problems with Kenya. The biggest problem that I view in Kenya today, as opposed to what many think, it is not the economy. Far from it. The biggest problem that we have is the corruption. And of course, when the people who, if you are in a fight and you want to draw your enemy away from your weakness. Mm-hmm. If the corruption, most of the people who are in the lineup and without fear or favor, they have been mentioned or they have been involved in corruption. So they wouldn't want to be talking about corruption. They want to make sure that we are talking economy, so that everybody is talking is a problem of jobs and economy. If we are losing 2 billion a day of Kenya shillings, if the corruption that we know has not been settled from KEMSA and all the sorts of money that has been lost, and our debt being very high in presence of corruption, no economy in the world will survive the kind of corruption that we have. We are one of the top corruption countries in Africa. So the big problem in Kenya is corruption, not even the economy, and therefore now the rest of the things are symptoms. Then if you have no money, then you take money from institutions. There's no money to finance youth. I would say that is the biggest problem.
Fair enough.
The biggest symptom is the youth question. So the youth have no job as a result of corruption. So I see corruption is the biggest problem.
Dr. Japheth, we will come to the question of corruption and how much the country loses to corruption. You say the biggest problem is not the economy, but you will understand the gap between the rich and the rest in this country has been widening, inequality at its peak, joblessness at its peak. You say the economy is not the problem?
Exactly. The economy is not the problem. Think about this. Kenya is the 6th largest economy in Africa. It is the 3rd largest economy in sub-Saharan Africa. Fact. And if you are the biggest economy in Africa and in sub-Saharan Africa, most of Kenyans are poor. Mm-hmm. So if we are the big economy, where is the money? That gives you the logic of that most of the money are concentrated in very few people, while most of the people are poor. It's common sense. It's not even guesswork. It's not even analysis. Those are facts. So Who are these very rich people and who are these poor people? So mostly the people who are able to stronghold the government and be able to get the contracts, get all the money, those are the people who are the rich and mostly corrupt people, basically.
Point made. Let me bring in Professor George Wajackoyah to the discussion. Prof, same question perhaps. What do you view as Kenya's biggest problem, if not problems?
First of all, thank you very much. And courtesy demands that I greet Dr. Japheth Kaluyu. He never said hi to me. And,
hello, my friend. I had not known you were in the studio. But
yes. So
long-time friend.
I say hi to you, and I also would like to bring to your attention that I'm an attorney in Washington, D.C., though I have various business interests in the U.S. Probably when I come next time, I will visit you as a brother. Secondly,
please.
I would like to agree with you on what you have said. When it comes to coverage of presidential candidates, yes, you are right. Recently, I was in West Pokot, and I was shunned by 3 major television stations in this country. The televisions that covered my event, including this particular one, I am in Hongera, K24, Ebru, may God bless you, and also TV 47. But then if you look at Citizen, NTV, and KTN, they blacked me out completely. And if that's what we call equity in investment in terms of information technology, may God bless them. But I hope they will amend their offenses. And I'm not here to attack them. I'm very friendly with the KTN, but this time they did not, and God bless them. Now, when it comes to the major problems in this country, to me, and in my opinion, major problems here are the people themselves. The issue of corruption is there, but let's set it aside. It is the people of Kenya, especially the majority who languish in poverty, that agree not to change. They agree to be bought by very little pieces of coins, silver. But if only they can take what belongs to them, because that money in corruption is actually the taxpayers' money which has been stolen from them, and then just change these people through the ballot box, then we shall not have a problem.
Corruption, therefore, is...
Corruption is one of the major problems.
All right, Dr. Japheth, there is a presidential admission, at least, that this country loses 2 billion shillings to corruption. Prof has talked about it. You also alluded to it. Often in these debates, corruption comes top, if not one of the top problems this country is facing. Is it difficult to fight corruption in Kenya then?
It is not difficult to fight corruption. And I want to say hello officially to my long-term friend who I know for over 15 years when he was in Washington, D.C. So he's someone we share a lot and we have met in Kenya. So I'm sorry I didn't say hello in the beginning. I say that officially, but our friendship goes beyond politics. Yes, it is not difficult to fight corruption. The problem is that you cannot ask the same people who created the problem to fix the problem. That is the problem we have. What you need is people who are not compromised, people who are not part of cartels, people who have not been part of corruption to come in, because most of the people who you see in most of the presidential candidates, lineups, or even other positions, you find there are people who have been together in politics for a very long time. How are you going to tell a friend not to do something? So that is why I presented myself for the 2022. I'm uncompromised and, I'm not corrupt. Therefore, like Magufuli, you'll be able to ask questions and shun away and stop corruption. I will be the end of corruption.
Fair enough, Dr. Japheth, but is that not... And for the lack of a better word, the cliche that every politician who wants a position of power comes hanging on, saying they are corruption-free?
The answer to that question is no, because the facts are there. We are a generation that believe in a different kind of politics, a generation that believed that it is business as usual. And that is why you see they can't calm down. They want to go out there. And as my fellow professor, Dr. Wajackoyah, is saying, is to pay people because they were ready to rush. It's only the corona that has slowed them down. They were ready to rush to go do the usual thing, pay people in the streets. And that is why I am challenging them to come on the TV and they face us. We debate. In fact, this week, they are delivering a letter to Chebukati because the rest of the world, United States, UK, and other countries that face election in COVID environment, they are doing debates. So we would like to invite them in the debates, but I guarantee you they want to do it in the streets because that's where they pay the people. That is why they pay crowds for sure. Most of those crowds, we have been in this game before. We have run for this game. So we want to make sure that we are vetted. We know we are not everything because they have questions to answer. There have been mentions in different places, and also their plans, they are out of order. I mean, they bring just a label and they cannot explain it, and they start running with it. Let's go back, talk about corruption, and if you had a chance in your life, in management, in administration, you blew your chance, step aside, we will respect you. I'll take all ideas from Ruto, Raila, everyone else. I will listen to them. But this time, in this time of our nation and history, they need to step aside and we will lead.
All right, Professor George, we're talking of corruption, which begs the question, there are constitutional bodies mandated at least to fight corruption, if not to apprehend those who are involved in that vice. With a negligible win, are these bodies then doing enough?
My government is going to do away with some of these goony bodies because they were constituted with good intention, but the people who were given the positions to run them were political vintages, people who were selected by the so-called loyalty principle to run these kind of bodies. And when you look at them, these are people who are really letting this country down. The allocation of funds to run those bodies runs into billions. And the one thing that mesmerizes me is the way business is run by some of these bodies. You find that there have been allocated funds for public misuse. Why would you want a guzzler? Why would you want a commission with 6 commissioners each having a guzzler, a car, top-of-the-range vehicle, security, police officers assigned to them, and training a police officer in this country takes almost 10 to 15 million. And the kind of entourage that comes with them, the perks that comes with them, this is all waste of taxpayers' money. And you will never know, you have never seen them prosecuting anybody. Let the courts do their work, and let the police do their work, and allow the DPP, Mr. Haji, also the CEO for anti-corruption movement, and Mr. Kinoti, including the Inspector General of Police. They have done a good job. But when it comes to these other quasi-bodies, I think my government, when we come to power in next year, first thing is I will disband all of them and look into other areas and that we can help run this country, create effective mechanisms to teach people about corruption. Create effective mechanisms in schools. It will take about 50 years for people to understand, unless you want to legalize corruption like what has happened in India, where we've got what we call bakshish, because it's part of life there. And then the government of India came in and said, well, if somebody is willing to give somebody as a token of appreciation, is fine.
All right.
But there's too much busybodies here.
All right, and that is on the fight of corruption. Let's move away from corruption. Let's, for some minutes, ponder on the current state of politics in the country. Dr. Japheth, there has been at least a spat, a tiff between the president and his deputy, quite very public in as far as their differences are concerned. There was a handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his then political rival Raila Odinga. There are talks of a second handshake between President Uhuru Kenyatta and his deputy William Ruto. What kind of an impact does a split in the executive, and more so a split and a tiff between the president and his deputy have?
It is a very big problem for our nation when the main government, the Jubilee government, the people in the inside, they are not together. In Article 135, 1E, it says the president is a symbol of unity. And I'm talking of the presidency, which is President Kenyatta and also Deputy President Ruto. In other words, they should always show unity so that the people can follow. The minute they show they are split, the Kenya becomes split. And that is why you see everybody's Mulembe nation. Today, Mount Kenya, they are meeting by themselves. The Northeastern, they are meeting. Mombasa, they are meeting. There will be no unity as long as everybody is dividing themselves. The purpose of my government, or as a president, is to unite people, bring everyone together. As long as they are touching those things, it's very dangerous. Now, here is the problem of the handshake right now. Already the damage has been done. They have split the country. And working together is a show of leadership by itself. Whether you are working with difficult people, in leadership, you work with everybody, even difficult people, even if it's your boss or your deputy. If it's your boss, you work with a difficult boss, and then you make things work. It's a sign of how you will lead, that you can work and play with others in difficult situations, because government is hard.
All right.
It's not a simple thing. So there's a lot of damage done, and now the ongoing damage, it will be that not everybody will come together, but it is not too late to bring the country together. But there are issues must be resolved. If they believe they came together, they divided the government, then they should go home together. If I was asked my personal opinion, they need to get together. In the next 1 year, there is still a lot of time to do development. At the end of the term, they both go home, and then the country calms down. And then they can just step aside and other people can be able to lead. My position is that both President Kenyatta and Deputy President Ruto, they go home together for the sake of the nation. This country is too
Dr.
big.
Japheth,
it's not worth fighting for.
let me interject you at that point. You talk of a handshake that has caused division. That is exactly the opposite of what the president says, at least what ODM leader Raila Odinga says. They say it was their handshake in March 2018 that united the country. You don't view it as that?
No, I don't view it like that, because Raila is as a citizen, a natural citizen like anybody else who holds no position. However, after we ran for the office in 2017, he commanded close to 50% of the country. And when you have command of close to 50% of the country, you have ability to make the government work or make it ungovernable. He had mentioned some of the people in his side, they had said they will make this government ungovernable. And that was very possible, to make everything, sabotage things. So it was necessary, and everybody can see in Kenya that the handshake of Raila and Kenyatta, and Raila and Ruto are two different things, two different people. So it has worked. The country is at peace. As a matter of fact, they deserve an award. That has nothing to say whether they should continue, even whether Raila should be the next president. As a matter of fact, if Raila is worried about being a president, I can assure him he will always be a part of my government. Kalonzo will be part of my government.
All right.
Musalia,
Fair enough.
even Ruto.
Fair enough,
So,
Dr. Japheth, point made. Let me bring Professor to the discussion. Prof, we are talking of a split between the president and his deputy. We have seen the public, at least, exchanges between them. The president daring Ruto to resign. I believe in his last media interview, he said, and I quote, "I have an agenda that I was elected on. The honorable thing to do, if you're not happy with it, is to step aside and allow those who want to move on to do so, then take the agenda to the people," end of quote. Should the deputy president, given the very public lack of bromance between the two, should the deputy president resign, Prof?
He should have resigned a long time ago because he's no longer in Jubilee, he's in UDA. Number two, there's also some kind of lunacy going on in this country, and let's speak it straight the way it comes. An attempt by those, some of those clergymen who have been sourcing money from Ruto from time to time, calling Ruto into their churches and then getting the money and not telling their congregation how that money is being spent is in itself a slap in the face of Kenyans. They should be the last people to come in and start saying that, oh, we need now the two of them to reconcile. They should go and take more money from Sugoi and leave the president alone. The president has done a good job. But the fact that he was trying to reconcile the country by bringing Raila on board, that was not an issue. He was trying to bring the country together. Now, if somebody somewhere with this group of people whose background we know came up and said he ought to have been included on the table, and I'm not attacking Ruto, I'm just telling him the way it is, because he also brought a lot of problems during the negotiations after the tribal clashes, and that's why him and Martha Karua are thrown out, because they wanted to go their way. Come on, this kind of greediness should end and end for good. So the president has done a good job. He's tried, his hands are tied. He came up and he tried also to weed out corruption by getting those who are associated with the corruption being arrested. And the tribal card came up, oh, it's my people, it's my people. And if you look at some of those people are lunatics, people who are appointed to head some of these parastatals without any kind of moral tolerance at all. So
but Professor, you will equally understand that this is a deputy president who has a point when he says he has not been appointed by anyone, that alongside the deputy president, the president, they were elected in one ticket, that he was part of the team that brought in the president and gave him power. He's at least very public about that.
All monkeys know that that is the truth. But hyenas,
isn't it?
But hyenas do not know that, because if you look at the cabinet, let's look at 50-50 division of both of them. Look at Uhuru's appointees and look at the deputy president's appointees. Look at those ministers and name them. Was that not a tribal card? Let's not just be defrayed by the fact that it was the constitution and all of them were elected. Were they elected to rip the country apart? Why did Uhuru also take too long not to take charge of this? He's equally to blame. So the fact that Raila came on board, and the Kenyans realized that the country was being torn. A lot of scandals were following in, corruption was in, parastatals were failing, conduit of corruption was there. Nobody wants to mention that, and I'm really very shocked by my fellow countrymen, that unless we wake up and face the reality the way it comes in, then this country is doomed. We go for elections.
Professor George, you say not unless we wake up and face the reality, but isn't that reality many a times one-sided, pushing all the evils of the government to the deputy president's side?
It's not only the deputy president. Even Uhuru is equally to blame when it comes to financial management of this country.
All right.
We have had cronies from his part also who have ruined this country, and none of them wants to say anything. So the best thing to do is let us go into election and let the elections be fair and free, and let Kenyans decide who will be their president. If they want to go through the same way, follow the tribal mechanism, elect on tribal lines, elect on those who have money, then this country is doomed, and will be ruined for life.
All right, Dr. Japheth, this weekend, Deputy President William Ruto, while addressing a rally, talked of how he helped ODM leader Raila Odinga almost clinch power, get half of the government through the Grand Coalition government from 2007. He talked of helping the president to win both in 2013 and 2017. The president dared him at least more than once to resign if he does not believe and support the very same government that he is part of. Should the deputy president resign in your view?
Quite frankly, in a theoretical manner, the answer would be it will be attractively appropriate for a resignation. In a practical manner, it is not going to happen unless himself he does it. You can't force him to do it because our constitution has that clause that there's a way you have to fire and deputy president, and that you cannot just easily. The goal is, the score for doing that is very high. So it's not going to happen unless he voluntarily does it for himself. Now, the thing is, we need to create a certain moral fabric in our country for service. And anytime you are not able to fulfill that, then you are obligated just on your own to step aside. And nobody is perfect. And sometimes you can make those mistakes. And the time you find yourself, you have made those mistakes, the country is bigger than anything else. You can step aside. Every generation God brings every generation with his own leaders. We are here, ready to lead. And we have the knowledge, we have the ability, we have led in large organizations, in first world, we have worked with other governments. So we are able to lead. This government doesn't have to have only two main candidates. And also don't forget all these candidates, again, we go back to the media. They are characters created by media to split the country into two. Now you can see what happened in 2017, because the country was split into two, so it was forced that Raila has to handshake. But if we gave all of us, including my friend Dr. Wajackoyah, me, everybody else, Mutua, and everybody else who wants to run this country, you give them an opportunity, then there will be different groups who support different people, and therefore it will not be 50-50. So the media has gone to create, and it's not the media, quite frankly, it is still corruption. Because yesterday I watched on KTN, I said Mr. Hwach, one of the renowned journalist in radio, he said politicians come to radio, they come to media, and they pay people. So it means politicians are corrupting the media. That means, and I'm not, attacking them. My background is journalism, radio and TV program host. So I am really experienced in that. They are my friends. So the idea of splitting people in two groups and also paying journalism so that they can be able to create characters, it is not fair. It is against the country. They are not patriotic. That is why I'm saying they should step aside. We will lead.
Dr. Japheth, whereas I can't defend the media entirely, it's unfair for you to say that these are the creations of media, isn't it? These are people, you included, Professor is here with me, and many others who have followings across the country who are covered equally by the media. None is the creation of the media.
I do not think so, because do you see, how many times do you see Professor? Professor has just brought in a very important item. He was in Laikipia. Was he covered? He said he was shunned by major media. And he has a right to be covered. If we have to, media is a defender of democracy. That is the purpose for it. And when you go to places in South Africa, other places where things needed to be corrected, they were corrected by the media. So it is not true. And again, I was a journalist for a long time. I was a TV program host in Washington, D.C. and Cast TV. So they are my friends. I know many of them. Almost every media person you know. When you run for president, you get to know them. So what I'm trying to say is that I need to encourage them. They are my friends. I need them to know if things go south, they go wrong, there is no place for media and another Kenya for the rest of us. It will go south for them. So they need to cover everybody, Dr. Wajackoyah, me, Mutua, Mukiza, everybody else. If Kenyans are given equal chance to choose. If they choose Raila, I will support Raila. If they choose Ruto, fine. If they choose me, I expect all those to support me. And that's the way it should be. And that is the democracy we want.
All right, let me bring Professor to the discussion. Prof, away from the media, and Dr. Japheth has a right to point fingers at the media. He has a democratic right to do that if he feels there is bias against him or any other candidate for that matter. To the politics now of economics and economic models. Prof, it seems as though the 2022 contest, and I've read quite a number of those who have made their intention, at least public, of wanting to vie come the polls 2022, and it seems as though there is a talk on the economy.
First of all, before I answer that question, may I also say something about the media, but from a sympathetic approach, because media houses are privately owned and then regulated, but then they don't do justice to media personnel. And it's very, very unfortunate that most of the reporters are paid peanuts by media houses. And I would like proper regulation to come up so that our media people, who are also human beings, who also have needs, who have families, who have school fees to pay for their children, to be taken into consideration so that they are given proper proper packages, just like we have media in the US. So I cannot holistically condemn the media. I mean, when I came in the country, I did condemn them. But for the time I've lived in the country, I've come to realize that the media people are paid peanuts. Something ought to be done. Those who own big media houses should be deregulated, and we should also have privatization policy that will take account of the scribes. I feel so bad. I'm with you, people who work in the media, and may God bless you. When I take over the government, I will work out something for you. The fact that I was not covered, I mean, that is nature, that's normal. I wouldn't want to go into that. But when it comes to these economic models that we have, the Roots Party model is a very unique one. We are working from the grassroots, empowering the people's economy through the county assemblies, whereby those ward representatives who actually are elected by the people will have to go back to the people and chart their economic formula with the people down on the grassroots. And then if they come up and say, well, this is what we need, we live in Pokot, this is an area of cattle rustling, or this is an area where our economy depends on cattle, go to Parliament, to the County Assembly, table a motion, ask for financial whatever considerations that fit into the model. Rather than us writing a blueprint for them from top-down mechanism, that is going to hurt the economy, because that will be coming from people who think they have gone to school and therefore they can actually come and transform the bottom. But the issue of bottom-up, to me, while it's a model which has been propounded by Ruto's men and what have you, after coming from top, eating everything to the bottom, and now they want to eat everything from the bottom going up, with the Roots Party, it's bottom-out. We are not interested in talking about bottoms. In fact, the word bottom is really demeaning. If you go and tell a woman that I want to develop you from your bottom down, bottom up, that becomes very cynical. But I'm not going to go into details.
These are models of economics fronted by individuals, at least some scientifically proven, others hearsays.
Where have we gotten scientific evidence in this country? Have they gone out there to collect scientific evidence through either by way of qualitative or quantitative or mixed methods, and to come up and do variables so that we can come out and propend that, yes, this has been, the scientific evidence here, there have been academic discourse on this, there are economists who have been involved in this, and this one works. Viability is ABCD. The monies, the finances are going to be structured in such a way that we shall get them from here. Here they're just coming up and showing us pay slips. Oh, here's my pay slip, I'm a deputy president. I'm not talking of Ruto in person, but I'm talking of what he said. My salary is this, and then the NHIS is this. And this is all rubbish and bullshit. I'm sorry to use this language on TV. Let us face this country and let us tell these people. While you're telling us of your economic model, what about the corruption model? What models are you going to use to propound and propagate issues of corruption? None of them wants to talk about corruption. None of these people on the platform with myself wants to talk about corruption, because they know that they have stolen enough, and if they would touch the word corruption, Kenyans will be like, "Hoi, why is he talking about corruption?" We have had ministers accountable. We have had Minister for Energy. Ministry of Energy has never come up with even one statement to tell Kenyans how the issue of monopoly on the Kenya Power has been running. We have what we call Ketraco. Look at what's happening in Ketraco. Look at the CIDs have now been forced in to go and investigate what has been happening. Look at the people in Ketraco and look at how much money they have. They have stolen and stolen and stolen, and they can't account for it. My government will put them in jail. Thank you.
And still on the question of economic models, Professor, you say it is quite derogatory to use the bottom up and bottom for that matter. But when the Deputy President says that there is a problem at the base, develop the base, develop those who are fueling the economy, hence you will have an impact at the macro economy. That at least makes sense, doesn't it?
Well, it doesn't make sense. You have macro, micro, and also another format. Mm-hmm. He has not explained what macroeconomy is. Mm-hmm. He has not explained what microeconomy is. Mm-hmm. And is now coming up to tell us of something that he has not alluded, he does not allude to some kind of borrowed what have you. Let him not be the person talking. Let somebody from his party talk about economics. Because if you come up and you're telling us that we shall give money to the people down there, mm-hmm. where are you going to get that money from? What about issues of taxation? What about issues of equity? What about issues of profit marginalization, or profits coming into people who are actually lending that money? They don't talk about even the banking institutions being involved in those models. So those are just political gimmicks. And trust me, when the right time comes, Kenyans will realize that they're being taken for granted by some of these models that are based on wheelbarrows, that are based on bottom up and bottom down, with the Roots Party's bottom out. Thank you.
All right, Dr. Japheth, we are talking of models, given that there is an intense discussion on the economy. One of your competitors, two, in fact, if not three and more, talking of economic models. NC's Musalia Mudavadi is talking of Uchumi Bora. Deputy President William Ruto talks of bottom up. I read the statement of your party, and I stand to be corrected, of the Unified Change Party, and the 7 points. It mentions the economy as well. Is it just the economy or the politics of it then? When you see politicians seemingly changing tune, talking of the economy, should I, as a Kenyan, should I be worried?
Yes. Here, like I said from the beginning, and let me just one step back to make sure that I assure the media that I'm not on an attack mode for them. I'm one of those bigger brothers who tell the truth. If you look at my writings, my books, or you look at any posts, I tell the truth, and I tell it in a humble way. Mm-hmm. So I understand what we need is a different administration that will make sure they are taken care of, and together with Professor Wajackoyah, in making sure media is taken care of, and because the behaviors, the stimuli is, if it's low pay, we need to have salaries that make sense and controls. Okay, talking about economy, and I think I probably one of the candidates that have authority in speaking in terms of economy. My MBA is finance economics. I've worked in Wall Street for at least 6 years, and reputably won awards there. I've worked for countries myself, so I understand what economics is about. And if we're talking of, let's even bottom up that you are talking about. Uh-huh. I was the first person in Kenya to speak about it in 2017. If you are saying someone is copying it, so be it. That is, as a scholar, where in terms of copying things, we are very sensitive about that. Also, bottom up, this thing was started, if you remember, Reagan, Clinton was about it, Obama was about it. This is not anything new by any means. Somebody just took a model from elsewhere, just came to bring it to Kenya. That's a fact, because it is not any made up or well thought original thought. It is something that was taken elsewhere because it exists, and other presidents have claimed it. Now, there's a reason why Biden would want bottom up to work in the United States, because the institutions of democracy, there's a difference between democracy and democratization. Mm-hmm. It means that democratization is that you set up institutions that support democracy to make sure there is no corruption. If you go where you need to go, you get what you need to get, and then you are on your way. So bottom up can work, and I've seen people in the social media comparing, saying, oh, even Biden wants bottom up, even so and so wants bottom up. That is even showing self-imposed almost ignorance, in the sense that the institutions in the United States, institutions in the UK, they do work. Therefore, you can bring any economic model and push it through, even if the president is not watching. The institution, if you go to look for social security, you'll be paid. It has nothing to do with president and the institutions work. The institutions of bottom up in Kenya, they are corrupt. Let's be honest with you. Those are things, some of the things that the new governments will need to do. And therefore, the bottom up in Kenya, period, cannot work. It can only work where institutions are clean, they are not corrupt, because it doesn't matter. You try to bring anything and person goes to get something in a particular department, they will be asked. Everybody turns to a toll station. They want to pick up the money. They want to charge for something. By the time you get to the top, you are paid a lot of money. So the bottom-up economics, it doesn't matter. What works in Kenya is to get rid of corruption. And corruption cannot be corrected by those who have been mentioned in corruption. And guess what? I have a lot of respect for Ruto. In fact, he has beat some of these people you are talking of, Musalia and other people, even Baba. He has beat them in the game in the sense that he has drawn them away from talking of corruption. And because where you have the weakness, you draw the people to something else so that we don't talk about corruption. So that is the game. It is a political game to draw people from talking about corruption. They want you to talk about hustler. They want you to talk about bottom up, and also, swing you around so that you are spinning in the wrong grounds. That's a fact. That is
all right. Dr. Japheth,
we need to be talking about the things that matter. It is corruption, and until we fix corruption, the rest of the economy will not work. I, in fact, think the biggest symptom of the corruption and the victim of corruption is the youth agenda or the youth question. Nobody wants to talk about that because 80% of the youth, they have no jobs. And those people they have energy, they are powerful, and they have the ability to do anything. Don't want a hungry, frustrated youth jobless. That is a big problem, a time bomb that will happen. So we need to stop about the model, trying to play gimmicks of trying to pull people from corruption. Let's face corruption head on, get rid of it, democratize all the institutions to make sure they are supportive to the democracy. And guess what? Our country will be clean. Now, it needs a new set of leaders who can actually do that. I step in as that person who wants to be considered, and I don't want to say I'm the only person who can win. I want to be considered, and Chebukati must give us an opportunity as debates every 2 months till then. Otherwise, only the people with the money and the people who can be able to associate with media, they will be with the people all the time. What about the rest? So people will be misled in terms of who they can choose if you have not been even given the opportunity to be chosen.
All right, fair enough. Point made. Let me ask you this question still on the economic models. You say the bottom up, some sort of, will not work in Kenya where institutions, as you say, are corrupt. But when someone in a village is told that the next government perhaps will put money into their pocket and that they will be considered in the development of the larger economy, at least it will make sense to that person at an individual level, irrespective of where they are in this country.
So the politicians who do tricks, and let me call it what it is, they lie to the people to get to the leadership by any means necessary. They take advantage of that. You are totally right about that. But here is the thing. The person I blame about that is where is the human rights? Because some of these things and lies are borderline to human rights. Where are the human rights people? Well, they only talk when the TV is around. They are all concentrated in Nairobi. Where are the lawyers in the pro bono work to set up clinics, for legal clinics, to explain land, to explain to people, civil society, where is it in the villages, telling people how their rights, chapter 4 of the Constitution, their rights, and how they need to vet people. The IEBC, it needs to increase, even if we need to increase the budget of IEBC to educate people, to do civil education for elections. People need to be informed. As a matter of fact, and I have lived in the first world. I have traveled a lot. People think Something is entirely wrong with going to elections with an electorate that is not educated about politics and the current issues of the day. Therefore, the politicians who take advantage of the people, they are dirty. They should not be in leadership. And I dare them say they come and debate us. We will expose them.
All right, and because of the interest of time, given that both of you have declared at least your presidential intentions to vie come the 2022 polls, Prof, let me start with you. Why should Kenyans vote for you as their 5th president?
Very good question, and that's a question that everybody's asking wherever I traverse this country. Let Kenyans decide on what we tell them, and let us actually be judged by them, not just saying that I want to be the president from hell. Let us talk to the people. Let's give them our ideas. Let us give them our agenda. For example, now, my concerns with my party are pegged on how do we eradicate this menace of corruption. Is it just opening up prisons and taking people to court and then taking them to prison? The answer is no. We shall have a curriculum in school whereby we shall teach children about moral responsibility, which will include classes on anti-corruption right from the inception up to the end, so that they have something that they can actually feel proud of. We shall teach them about healthcare, we shall teach them about employment, we shall teach them about market opportunities, and we shall also teach them about security issues. We shall teach them on technology, and we shall want them to know, to be proud citizens in that they should know how to love themselves and love their country. For example, most of the things that are happening today are imposed on people who have empty stomachs, people who are suffering in such a way that their money is per 100 is almost zero. What about the issue of diaspora? Last year alone, the diaspora brought in billions of shillings. No politician is considering what to do with the diaspora, whether we should create a ministry for the diaspora. What about indigenous people? The people who have been profiled to be indigenous, people whose land has been stolen by colonialists and then inherited by the current political system in the country. And when there are issues in Laikipia, what we see is Matiang'i flying in there and saying, and putting police and the army everywhere to annihilate this situation. My government will reprocess all those farms that have been taken away without any due process and actually give them to the people. And those who have fraudulently obtained loans to hold on those farms and use tactics from the government security to dispossess of the rightful indigenous people who own those lands will have to mend for it. And the issue of those people whose lifestyle was pegged in forests, like the Ogiek, like the Sengwer, people have lived in the forests for the rest of their lives from the inception, and people have been removed from those forests and thrown out because of the Maoist escapement. My government will also look into it and actually take them back to those forests, because those who will be willing will be taken back, will be given an option to go back and live in their lifestyle, in their habitat, and those who want to change, fair enough. So we need a government that will include people in participating on what they are, what they want, and where they are going. Thank you.
As you say, we need a government. You're confident that government is the one you will lead?
Yes, a good governance and good governance.
All right, Dr. Japheth, probably same question and last perhaps, and let me put this as a pretext to it. The last time you vied for the presidential seat, you were an independent candidate. I believe you have a party now.
Yes, I'm completing one, and yeah, I'm ready for duty.
And just for purposes of clarity, that is the Unified Change Party, is it?
UCP.
All right.
Yes, same thing.
Why should Kenyans consider you as their 5th president, vote for you?
Because I am not corrupt, I'm not part of cartel, and I make my decisions very independent. I will make life affordable for our people because of my 7-point plan. I'll make sure the jobs of living wage. There is this idea of our opponent, hustlers and bottom-up economics. They are saying kazi ni kazi. In other words, most of the Kenyans, they don't understand. Most of the Kenyans, they are working poor. Even though they are working kazi si kazi, because many people working are working poor. They can't afford. We will make sure that they get jobs of living wage for the 21st century. We will cut taxes because it will go. In fact, in cutting taxes and saying that it will increase the tax base, I'm the one who was talking about that in 2017. So talk about people taking your ideas and incorporating them. Of course, that will be the end of corruption because of what I've told you. Diaspora will participate, like Professor have said, and there will be a moving part in forming that new government. I will tell you that post-COVID economy, I'm the only person from medical school who have done concentration in actually virus, and it comes just timely where we have COVID. And I'm probably the only candidate also of finance and economics profession from Wall Street and worked with other governments. So I can speak economics, I can speak COVID, and I can speak the economy related. And therefore, I will be the most appropriate person for the occasion, not because I'm better. It is because the history and time it has just put in that place. So I'm looking forward that for Kenyans to see that, we will educate them and make sure we'll speak loudly. What I want is the IEBC and the media to create debates, because if we continue this way, we will go to election with the electorate not knowing the candidates, not knowing what to do. But the only way to do this is to bring all the candidates, and I challenge the TV47 to create a debate for all of us. I will attend, I commit.
All right, Dr. Japheth Kavinga Kaluyu, former independent presidential candidate in the 2017 polls. Professor George Wajackoyah, a presidential candidate. And just to add that Dr. Japheth is also a presidential candidate in the next year's general election. Thank you once again for your time tonight. On a night in which you have both pointed fingers at the media, we will respect, and of course we believe as a media house here at TV47 in the plurality of opinions. So we will open up the space in as far as discourse are concerned without necessarily dictating to Kenyans on who to vote